Breaking, Emma Raducanu stuns crowd by defending Coco Gauff after racist abuse from fans. The stadium lights blaze against the midnight sky in Dubai, where the energy of the tennis world vibrated like an electric storm. Two of the sport's brightest young stars, Coco Gauff and Emma Raducanu, had just finished a thrilling match in the Dubai Championships quarterfinals. The rallies were electric, the athleticism unmatched, and the crowd roared with admiration. But then, in a twist that no one expected, the night turned dark. It began with a single shout from the upper stands. Then another, and then more. Not cheers, not criticism of gameplay. Something uglier, something poisonous, something that had no place in sport or anywhere at all. Racist comments, directed at Coco Gauff. The stadium froze. Fans looked around in horror. Coco paused mid-autograph, her face tightening as though an invisible blade had sliced her confidence. And then something extraordinary happened, something no one would forget. Emma Raducanu stepped forward. The moment the world stopped. Emma had been signing autographs too, a few steps from Coco, when she heard the shouted insults. For a second, she thought she misheard. Surely, in 2025, such cruelty didn't still stain the world. But then she heard it again, louder, sharper, targeted. Coco tried to ignore it. She had learned, painfully, that success came with shadows. She had been taught to stay composed, stay strong, stay silent. But Emma Raducanu was not built for silence. She dropped her pen, turned on her heel, and before anyone could react, she marched straight to the barrier, separating the crowd from the court. A hush swept across the stadium. Cameras zoomed in. Security stiffened. Fans whispered. Emma's voice cut through the air like a blade of fire. "Hey! Stop! Right now!" The crowd went silent. Even the guilty ones froze. Emma, normally calm and soft-spoken, radiated an intensity no one had ever seen. "There is no place," she said, voice ringing through every corner, "for racism in tennis. Not against Coco. Not against anyone." Coco's eyes widened. The world held its breath. A defense the world didn't expect. For years, Emma and Coco had been compared. Two prodigies, two champions, two young women carrying the expectations of nations. They were competitors, rivals in some eyes. But tonight, Emma made one thing clear. They were sisters in the same fight. She continued, louder now, addressing the entire arena. "You don't speak to her that way. She is a champion, a role model, and one of the greatest humans in this sport. Anyone who brings hate here should leave." The stadium erupted, not in chaos, but in thunderous applause. Security rushed in. The individuals responsible were quickly located and escorted out. Fans booed them loudly, making sure their exit was marked with shame. Emma stood her ground until they were gone. Coco's heartbreak and her strength. Coco walked toward Emma, her chest tight with motion. She had faced racism before, in whispers, in online comments, in subtle slights, but tonight felt different. Tonight, she wasn't alone. Her voice trembled slightly as she approached. "Emma, you didn't have to do that." Emma shook her head fiercely. "Yes, I did." Then, softer, "You deserve respect. Always." Coco swallowed hard, fighting the sting of tears. She wasn't crying because of the hate. She was crying because of the courage. Emma's courage. In that moment, two young women stood united, not as opponents, but as allies against something larger than sport. The press conference that shocked the world. Later that night, the press room was packed, journalists shoulder to shoulder, microphones stacked like confused birds. Everyone expected awkwardness, tension, or perhaps silence. What they got was history. Emma sat beside Coco, not in her own scheduled session, but intentionally, symbolically. Coco began, "I'm fine. I've dealt with things like this before. But tonight was different because Emma stood by me." Emma shook her head gently. "I didn't stand by you, Coco. I stood up because what happened was unacceptable, and staying quiet would have made me part of the problem." Reporters scribbled furiously. The room buzzed with emotion. One journalist asked Emma, "Why did you take such a public stand?" Emma didn't hesitate. "Because silence protects hate, and I refuse to be silent." Another reporter turned to Coco. How did it feel when Emma intervened? Coco exhaled slowly. It felt like someone saw me, not as an athlete, not as a headline, but as a human. Her voice reminded me that I'm not alone. Some journalists wiped tears. The video of the press conference would go on to break millions of views within hours. Around the world, a wave of support. As the news spread, the world responded. Tennis legends tweeted words of solidarity. Celebrities posted videos praising Emma's courage. Fans flooded social media with hashtags like #StandWithCoco, #ProudOfEmma, #TennisAgainstRacism. Schools discussed the incident. Activists applauded the unity. Even the WTA issued an official statement condemning discrimination and praising both athletes. But the most powerful response came from young girls, Black, Asian, Latina, white, who wrote, "Thank you for showing us how women protect each other." Behind the scenes, a private moment. After the press conference, when the cameras were off and the arena lights dimmed, Coco and Emma sat alone on a bench in the hallway, shoes off, exhausted. Coco looked at Emma. "Why did you get so angry?" "I've had worse." Emma sighed. "Because you shouldn't have to get used to it. Because your talent should be the only thing people talk about. Because you fight for everyone else. Now it's time someone fought for you." Coco smiled softly. "You're stronger than people think." Emma shrugged. "Maybe, but tonight, you're the strong one." A match that became a movement. By the next morning, the match they played, once the highlight, became secondary. The real story was unity, courage, sisterhood. In interviews days later, Coco reflected, "Emma showed me that the fight against hate isn't mine alone." She turned a painful moment into a powerful message. Emma added, "This isn't about me or Coco. It's about changing what we accept." Together, they had sparked something bigger than a tournament. They had ignited a global conversation about racism in sports. And their bond became a symbol of what the new generation of athletes stood for. Not silence, not fear, but justice. The future of their friendship. Over the next months, Coco and Emma often practiced together, joked together, and publicly supported each other. Media tried to paint them as rivals again, but the narrative had changed forever. Because that night in Dubai, Emma had proven what true character looks like. And Coco had proven what true resilience feels like. They weren't just competitors. They were sisters forged in adversity, allies in truth, champions of heart. A moment for history. Months later, when both athletes appeared in a joint interview, the host asked, "If you could say one thing to the world after that night, what would it be?" Emma looked at Coco. Coco nodded back. And together, they said, "In tennis, we compete. In humanity, we protect each other." It was simple. It was powerful. It was unforgettable. Just like the night Emma Raducanu stunned the world by defending Coco Gauff. Not as a rival, not as a fellow athlete, but as a sister, a friend, and a voice of courage. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share. Till next time.